Hello everyone, welcome to Fourth Cut. I'm EJ Leasing, and with me today,
I'm Chris Conforti.
So today we wanted to talk to you guys and show you our videos. While we were there, we had the best time at Creature Feature Weekend, as you can see with our shirts. It was in Gettysburg, which was a lot of fun, and wait till you see all the cool stuff we have to show you guys. But what did you think of Creature Feature?
I thought it was great. I mean, Creature Feature is so cool. It's by far and away my favorite convention. It is exactly why I fell in love with conventions in the first place. And that starts from the top down. Craig puts on an amazing show. There's karaoke. There's live commentary. There's Q&A. There was a makeup session where Victor Pascal was getting into makeup. There's just so much to do there. Karaoke. Like, I can go on and on.
Yeah, it was incredible. I could not express how much fun it really was. It was one of those you should be there. If you're not going to Creature Feature, make it one of your hit stops out of all the horror conventions.
We had so much fun that we were going to do one episode, and we can't possibly do one episode. It has to be done in 5. We have some fans that we've interviewed. There's vendors we interviewed some volunteers, and of course we interviewed some of the guests that were there.
Yes, and we got such cool interviews and insight on not just like Killer Clowns and Friday the 13th, but like other projects that these actors or creators have worked on. So without further ado, let's get into our first interview. Do you want to set it up?
Sure. So our first interview was a fan, just like you and me.
Hey, I'm EJ Leeson with Fourth Cut Productions. Standing with me is Josh. And Josh, where are you from?
I'm from a little town called Quantico, Maryland.
Oh, Quantico.
Confused with Quantico, Virginia.
Right. Very, very different. So tell us, what got you into the horror convention scene and everything?
My cousin and uncle. They took me when I was about 8 or 9 to a show called FanX, and my very first guest I met was Forrest J. Ackerman.
Oh, very, very cool. Very cool.
After that, I was hooked.
Yes. What brought you to Creature Feature? How did you hear about that?
Brad Green quest and costume, and I brought my prop that I made back in 2019 of Church the Cat.
That is incredible. Yeah, I got to see that in line. I was like blown away how cool it looked. I was like, oh my gosh. And how long did it take you to make that?
Trial and error. Like I said, I learned through YouTube videos. So I just watched a couple and I was like, I think I could take a crack at it. There was a convention coming up at the end of March in 2019, New Jersey HorrorCon, and they had a Pet Cemetery reunion. So I decided I can't find a stuffed animal gray cat, so I might as well make my own church. So sculpted a head, paws, and I bought fur from, I think it was shopping Etsy. I bought the eyes from a taxidermist. So I was like, oh, okay, to give it the lively look. And then just looking at a whole bunch of photos from the movie, trying to get like that good, like horrific pose of church. I just put it piece by piece, sculpted it, and then I made like a wire frame for the body, and then quilt batting and stitched the fur together, and I unearthed church.
Yeah, excellent job, man, excellent. Now we have to ask, this is one of our questions, what is your favorite horror movie? And if you can't pick one, you can pick up to 3.
Okay, well, I can pick 3, but I will pick my one. George Romero's Dawn of the Dead, that's my all-time favorite. Then I would say a 3, so to give it some love, Pericles Luna's Redneck Zombies from Troma, check it out. And then a third one, keep it zombie faith, Eve the Evil Dead.
Nice, of course. Thank you so much for your time.
You.
Yeah, thank you.
You guys have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
We really don't get fan perspective unless they post like a video on YouTube, but it's not like authentic a lot of times because it's not like in that moment. And I think it was kind of cool to see his authentic reaction. And this was probably like shortly after we got out of the line. So
Yeah, it was right after getting the photo op and everything done that we got to chat with them, and it was awesome. It was so cool.
now, speaking of awesome, you actually got to interview for our next celebrity interview. You got to interview Mike Martinez.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Mike Martinez played one of the clowns in Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Not only did he do that, but he also did stunt work for Terminator 2, Indiana Jones, Willow, and he shared some really cool stories from, Terminator and Willow and even Indiana Jones. I was, you'll see what I'm talking about. But yeah, check it out.
Check it out.
Hi, I'm EJ Leeson with Fourth Cut Reviews. Today, I'm sitting here with Mike Martinez from Killer Clowns from Outer Space. You got to work on the cult classic Killer Clowns. How fun was it to be a killer clown?
Actually, it was fun and painful and cold. It was a number of things.
Oh yeah, I bet. You have that famous car racing scene where you ram the car off the side of the road. Was that a difficult shoot, and how long did that take?
The longest part was getting me in the contraption because it was a thing that was mounted to the back of the car. It had an arm with a seat and a track on it, and there were wires going up my arms with toggle switches in my palms, so I was able to move myself forward and backward, and then I could steer the wheel on the front of it to swing myself away and back to the car. We shot it over the course of 2 nights, and being exteriors, we'd have to get there. Took them about 2 hours to get me in the contraption because they had to get all the wiring and then put the suit around me while I was on it. Then we were doing about 30, and I got to rehearse with the contraption the day before, so I was used to it. And then we just did about had time to do about 3 or 4 takes per night. And everything went smoothly until we didn't hear cut, the driver and I, because there was a light shining on him so they could see him in the car. So he was blind, and my vision in the costume was limited. And there was a motor in the head to make the eyes blink and things like that. So I couldn't hear anything because the sound of the motor was resonating through my skull. And so we're going along. You have a kind of an interior clock about how long a scene is going to take. And we thought, okay, it should have been cut. And the driver is calling to me, did they yell cut, they yell cut? And I said, I don't know. A couple seconds later, I felt branches hitting me, and I stuffed my head inside the car, and I yelled for him to stop, and he stopped. And just as we stopped, the headlights on my feet shone on the tree. Yeah, that was a close one. But no clowns were hurt in the making of the show.
Oh, that's excellent. You also got to work on some legendary films like Terminator 2, Willow, Indiana Jones. Can you share what it was like to work on some of those films?
Terminator 2 was interesting. It was in the scene where they were going into the cyber systems. When all the police cars came up and Arnold was shooting everything up. And I was in one of the cars, and we had some action when we came in. We were going to stop, get out of the car, and all of a sudden some long-haired hippie guy came up to me and was asking me about this. Does this light work? Okay, do this, and this. He left. Turned out it was James Cameron, But then on Willow, I doubled Rick Overton as one of the brownie characters. So that was all shot at Industrial Light and Magic in San Rafael. And it was a very small crew because it was just the blue screen effects with the 2 brownies and the small crew and Ron Howard and them. So we shot that for a couple of weeks, just, with about 10 people. So at lunch, we would just sit around all having lunch, and Ron would be telling all these stories and everything. He was such a great guy, But Indiana Jones, I worked at Industrial Light and Magic again. I doubled Harrison Ford. in the scene where he had to spell Jehovah and falls through the floor and caught himself.
That is like a legendary scene too.
You know, and then I did some of the sidecar driving, you know, for that. But yeah, that's about it.
And did you like Ron Howard like bring up like some Happy Days stories and stuff too?
Yeah, Happy Days, Night Shift. You know, he was hilarious. You know, just talking about different things. And you know, meanwhile, George Lucas is sitting there, and George is trying to, hey, on this scene, and everything. And Ron's kind of looking at him like, yeah. So anyway, he gets back to his story. It was hilarious. You know,
that's great. And then, what has been your favorite part of Creature Feature so far?
We did a live commentary while we were watching the film yesterday. And first off, it was the first time I got to see it on a big screen. I mean, I went to the screening of Killer Clowns, but it was in Santa Cruz, so it was like one of those retro theaters where it kind of had a small screen. But this was a full screen, and watching it, and it was kind of fun because, you know, the Kyotos and Grant Grayman's and Harrod and them, we were all just sitting around kind of chiming in as needed, and it was a lot of fun, and everybody really appreciated it afterwards. It was nice.
It was awesome. That was actually my favorite part. Yeah, it was awesome. And then finally, Mike, we love to ask this question at Fourth Cut. What's your favorite horror film? If you can't pick one, you can pick up to 3.
Wow. That's a tough one. I mean, I guess I'm supposed to say Killer Clowns because...
Well, no, even if it's like something maybe as a kid that you just loved.
Well, you know, it's weird. Horror films have changed so much. I guess, you know, Night of the Living Dead, the first one, when I was a kid, I saw it, you know, and just some of the scenes were just so creepy, you know. But then, you know, watching films like that and King Kong, and you know, as a kid it influences you a lot. Then they kind of got into the slashers, and when we did Killer Clowns, it wasn't a slasher, you know. And when I first read the script, you know, I thought it was hilarious, and I told Steven, the director, I said that was the funniest script I ever read, and naturally he said, "It's not a comedy." But you know, what he's talking about is he didn't want people to play it funny. Right. You know, you got to play it straight. Right. Let the film speak for itself. You know. Yeah. But you know, when we shot Killer Clowns, you know, we knew we were doing something different. We got to do a lot of campy stuff. You know, like the car rig and you know, different things, challenges of like getting hit by an SUV wearing size 20 shoes, right? You know, things like that. You know, But
I thought it was a cool like throwback to like 60s horror stuff. Yeah, like 50s, 60s.
Right, and they kind of based the spine of it as like from The Blob. You know, these young guys know there's this thing out there, but nobody's believing them. Right. You know, so they're having to fight the town and the creature. You know, so yeah.
And I remember from the commentary him even saying that the control room basically was Forbidden Planet, like inspired by it.
Right. Yeah. They had a number of things that, you know, they said they grew up with as kids. Anything from the Marx Brothers to the Three Stooges, you know, mixed with horror films that they liked. Yeah. So, okay, well, let's just combine everything, you know?
Well, hey, thank you so much, Mike. And this was such a pleasure to meet you and everything. Thank you so much. So, thank you, Mike Martinez, for that awesome interview. And it was so cool to listen to that. And I love Indiana Jones. I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan. And I must have watched Last Crusade like 100 times. And that scene in particular, where he's going letter to letter jumping, it's probably one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. So hearing him talk about that briefly, I was just like totally nerding out.
Yeah, it was a really great interview. And Mike Martinez has been in so many cool things. So we hope you guys have enjoyed that interview. Now, you also got to interview another killer clown. This would be Harrod Blank.
Yeah, I was so lucky to talk with him, and Man, one of the nicest guys too. I mean, we'll elaborate more on that after, but if you get a chance to meet anybody, meet the Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I mean,
100%.
Mike and Harry, like the nicest guys. Totally awesome. A lot of fun. We actually got to hang with him.
Yeah, which
and
we'll talk about
we'll
that
talk about later. But yeah, check this interview out. It's really cool. Hi, I'm EJ Leeson here with Fourth Cut Productions. Today, I'm standing with Harrod Blank from Killer Clowns from Outer Space. So how does it feel to be part of such a cult classic film?
I just feel so blessed. I mean, every moment of the day, having people adore Killer Clowns and the characters that I played, I can't believe it. It's a gift that keeps on giving. You know, come on, this is 35 years later, and I'm sitting here signing autographs. I had no idea this was going to happen.
Right.
And you know what? It seems like it's getting even bigger.
Yeah.
We have 5-year-olds coming up to us that want our autograph. 5-year-olds. I'm like, oh my God, it's a whole nother generation of fans.
Well, I remember the first time I watched it, I was a really young kid, and I would watch it all the time. And my mom did not understand. She was so creeped out by the masks and stuff. And she's like, how could you watch this? I'm like, I love it. I don't know. And she bought me that on VHS.
But what is it that makes a person so obsessive over Killer Clowns?
I don't know. I loved it. I just loved.
Why? What is it?
I think it was the makeup. I was so intrigued by like that, and then the story was awesome. You know, like I don't know what it was, but
creativity.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like the jokes in it landed, the cotton candy, the idea of like people in the cotton candy, and I was like, that's so weird, you know. But what was your favorite memory of filming Killer Clowns?
Well, when I did the popcorn gun scene, and I'm in costume, they actually glue. This is a replica, but they glue this back scene with airplane glue.
Oh, really?
And once you're in, you're not coming out. The only way to get you out is if they take a razor blade and cut it at the end of the shoot.
Yeah.
So I'm in costume, and it's action. And I come out of the elevator with the popcorn gun, and I'm like high as a kite. And while I'm high as a kite, there's motors inside the head that animate the eyes and the mouth. So it's like I'm high as a kite, I'm coming out. And then I'm like, wow, it was a trip.
I can imagine.
You know, doing those scenes was surreal. Like, for example, when I'm sucking the blood out of the cocoon, I'm sucking on the straw and I see the blood coming up, which was corn syrup.
Yeah.
And I just said, what the fuck am I doing? This is so weird. So it was weird making it, and it's weird 35 years later signing autographs for working on it. It's just amazing. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. So what here at Creature Feature, what has been your favorite part of Creature Feature so far?
Here at Creature Feature, I think it's the collective enthusiasm of such a diverse fan base. Like, everyone is tattooed, nose rings, just all kinds of people that have a common interest in celebrating this movie and other horror films. It's very positive.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of art. There's a lot of artists that are doing their spin off of Killer Clowns and other horror films, and it's just a good energy. It feels good. It's positive. It's creative, and it's a diverse audience, the fan base.
Yeah.
And it's like being at a kind of a party. It's like all day, just having fun, and you know. Yeah.
Here we go. We're getting into the clown costume.
was doing some research and I saw on IMDb that you're actually writing, producing, directing, and you kind of come from like a family, like a lineage of like filmmaking and stuff. So tell me all about that.
Well, my father was Les Blank, and so I grew up in a family where we watched movies all the time. Now, the ironic thing is we didn't do horror films so much. We did independent documentaries, foreign films, and so my film background is very strange. And I actually am a filmmaker. I do documentaries as well. I focus on Burning Man and art cars.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is somehow Killer Clowns fits perfectly into it because there's an art car in the movie, in Killer Clowns.
Right.
I showed up at the audition in this car. That's how I showed up at the Killer Clowns audition. Can you see that? How random is that? And so when I showed up in the car, they're like, who's that guy? Oh, that's Harrod Blank. And then I think it ended up helping me get the part in Killer Clowns.
Oh yeah, and it's funny because the car in the movie kind of looks like the car.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, it didn't look like a copy, but it definitely is in the same genre.
Right.
It was fun, colorful, wacky, and it was just completely serendipitous, completely by chance that I had an art car and they had an art car in the movie.
Right, yeah, which is so wild.
Yeah.
And then finally, we've been asking everyone, what is your favorite horror movie? Or if you can't pick one, you can pick three.
I think Killer Clowns is amazing. So I love the creativity and the fun and the campiness, and it doesn't take itself too seriously, and somehow that just all works. It works really well. So I love Killer Clowns. I'm biased, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it's kind of incredible because it is a movie that really any like age can watch. You know what I mean? Like I was a little kid when I watched it, and I loved it, and I watched it a million times. And then you have adults that love it, and I feel like it's one of those movies that just appeals to everyone. You know? And well, dude, thank you so much for this interview. I so appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And make sure to check out all his stuff on IMDb.
What an awesome guy.
Seriously, one of the coolest, and I love him because he kind of reminds me of one of our buddies that we have here, and he's just a cool guy, very chill, but up for anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's always like, yeah, man, what's up? You know, and
He's just a really, really good guy. I've been doing conventions now for a long time, and he's right up there on the top of the list.
yeah, I would have to say like just the eagerness to not only just do this interview but to be like, hey, do you guys want to
You want to do this, you want to do that.
He actually invited us to the photo op so we could like film that and everything
and
too.
see him get ready.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, why don't you come by and like hang out? And we're like, are you sure? And then after that, he was like, hey, we're gonna do this. You want to come do that too? Or like, yeah.
It was just awesome. Like he's an awesome person. Now somebody else that I feel like it's only you interviewing these ones in this episode.
Yeah, I know, right?
Somebody else that you got to interview was actually a vendor. We loved his stand. He was the first person that, vendor-wise we asked to interview. I don't think we got anybody else, but fear not. Eventually we will come around to you, I promise, and you'll get hit with some of these hard-hitting questions. We're regular Katie Couric's here.
Yeah.
We're probably going to get sued by Katie Couric for using the name, but still. We're hard-hitting questions here. But we got to interview Malachi from Horror Gods, who had a really cool stand.
Yeah, easily one of my favorite stands, like in the convention. I mean, out of all of conventions I've gone to, their stuff is really cool. He gets to talk about it a little bit there, but they pretty much like him and a partner designed everything and how the name came about, and it's really cool. So,
with that being said, here's Malachi with Horror Gods.
Hello, I'm UJ Leeson with Fourth Cut Productions. I'm here with Malachi from Horror Gods. Malachi, tell us, how did you get into horror?
Man, I got into horror when I was about 7, 8 years old. My parents, my mom specifically, let me watch certain things. Like I saw a lot of 2s, Child's Play 2, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Evil Dead 2. So as I got a little older, it became nostalgia. I'm addicted to nostalgia. And I don't know, I love horror. It, it's art.
Now, talking about art, here at your stand, you're selling all originally designed merchandise, which is amazing, by the way. But yeah, tell us about how you started doing that.
So I do this with an artist. His name is Zachary Sweet. He lives in California. I used to work for this company, Super 7. We met working there. We both liked horror. He's an amazing artist. I had an old clothing brand that really wasn't working out. One day I was complaining about it, and he was like, my name was Horror God on Instagram. He was like, hey, why don't we make a brand called Horror God? And I thought about it. The next day he had the logo drawn up, and then I was like, all right, I could do this. He's an amazing artist, as you can see, and we just started it like a couple years ago, so we're still building it, but that's how it came about.
That's all. Yeah, that's awesome. And how many do you go to every convention, or is it like what conventions are some that you hit up?
I mainly do a lot of the East Coast stuff because I'm on the East Coast. Monster Manias, New Jersey Horror Con, Creature Feature. And honestly, anything I can get to, Mahoning Drive-In, anything, I'll do it. If it's people are going to be there, I'll do it because, hey, I'm here for the horror fans, fans by fans.
Oh, absolutely. And where can we find your stuff if people could buy this online, right?
Yeah, horrorguys.net. You can catch me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I do videos on there that I edit music with the horror movies. So it's pretty trippy little videos.
That's awesome. Dude, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.